All right, everybody, you saw some changes happen that were subtle. And I think one of the things that we saw with this offense against the LA Chargers when they were just clicking on all cylinders to the tune of 41 points in LA on the road. I understand the road crowd there isn't like a normal road crowd. Okay. It's not that crazy, but I still want to talk about it just a little bit because I noticed something with Jameson Williams while watching the game. And when you look at snap counts, it confirmed it even more. So we're going to talk about that first. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff to this video. If you haven't yet, if you have a Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, we are on there. We've been on there for about a month now. Love chatting with fans on that. It's kind of an easy way to do it. And so just another way to follow us. You can get some of our videos on there, but also just kind of see our thoughts more in the raw and active. So anyways, feel free to check that out. But let's talk about Jameson Williams. And here's the thing. We're going to look at some PFF stuff. We're going to have fun with all that kind of crap. But there's one number that really was intriguing because as I was watching the game, one thing I'm trained to do right now is every time they line up, I look up and down the line who's playing. And I can't help it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So I'm looking to see if there are two people that are in. One is Jahmyr Gibbs. Is he in the backfield? And number two is Jameson Williams in the game. And generally, when I'm watching the Detroit Lions, ever since he came back after the 4-week or whatever it ended up being suspension, was I'm just disappointed about 80% of the time because he's not in. And I just keep thinking to myself, I understand that he's not the best wide receiver right now, but the only way he becomes the best wide receiver is if you keep him on the field more often. Now, it's wide receiver. No wide receiver is going to be on the field 100% of the time. Even St. Brown's not on the field 100% of the time. But I was really hoping to see those numbers break certain barriers. And the first barrier you want to see it break is the 50% snap count. And he did. All right. So not only did he break the 50% barrier, which was 52% of the snaps he was in for run plays, he was in for pass plays. And we're going to talk more about what some of his strengths are right now. And we'll still continue to talk about the weaknesses. But here's the other thing that's exciting. To break the 50% barrier, was it a game script where we just had to throw the ball all the time? No, it was not. All right. Is he still ahead of other wide receivers? And right now, the only wide receivers that are ahead of him is the Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Reynolds. All right, Josh Reynolds is still proven to be the second most reliable receiver on this team for Jared Goff. Jared Goff and Josh Reynolds have always kind of had that special relationship that they like throwing the ball to each other. Maybe it's the familiarity from LA, but I remember 2 years ago when Reynolds came onto this team halfway through the season, that's when Goff started to look like an NFL quarterback, right? Because he finally had an NFL caliber wide receiver and he's just hung on. But Josh Reynolds wasn't phenomenal in this game by any stretch of the imagination. And Jameson Williams, on the other hand, did things really well. So here's some of the things that I found him doing well. He was blocking well down the field. He had a good key block in the David Montgomery touchdown run. You could see him blocking. And I think one of the crazy things about Jameson Williams is he kind of looks like a kamikaze blocker. And he just goes nuts blocking. And what I saw early in the game was they put him in there on a couple plays solely to block. And then he should have scored a touchdown, but it was called back on a ridiculous Taylor Decker penalty. And I say ridiculous because Taylor Decker, I'm for you, bro. You didn't do anything. Like, I understand below the waist outside the tackle box, but it was close. And I don't even know if he ever touched his legs. Like, the guy didn't fall down. There was no fear of injury. Like, I understand the whole principle of the rule, but that's not what this video is about. Man, that made me frustrated because I'm like, you just took away a touchdown from us. You took away a touchdown. All right. But what I also thought was cool about that is that Jameson Williams went back to the huddle. Jared Goff kind of gave him some words of encouragement and he just kept playing. So he was rewarded for the blocking. They gave him the opportunity to score which is really cool, shows a level of trust because in the red zone, you don't throw it to people you don't trust. Okay. You don't in general in the Ben Johnson offense. And then they just continued to play him. And no, he didn't get a ton of looks, but he played half the snaps. So here's what I believe the coaching staff was doing. This was a test it game. If we put him out there for the majority, I know it's barely, but it was the majority of the snaps, will he, the majority of the time, do what he's supposed to do and do it well? And if you look at PFF, which say what you want about PFF, but it's designed to do one thing: grade players based on what the grader believes they were supposed to do. So if they're in a pass blocking situation, how did they pass block? If they were in a run block situation, how did they run block? If they're running a route, did they recognize zone versus man and stop and run the route in the way they should? If it was a catchable ball, did they catch it? These are all the different things that you can get graded on. And this is by far Jameson Williams' best graded game as a professional. This is his best game as a pro. His drop rate was absolutely atrocious all year, but not in this one. 2 balls, 2 catches. It was actually 3 balls and 3 catches because they threw him one near the end zone. Now, 2 of those were just throw it down the line, catch it and run. But the other one he had to come back for. Goff was under pressure. He made a nice diving catch. He cradled it. It was really nice. But his grades here, his offensive grade was a 66.7. His receiving grade was a 67.1, which means what kind of routes was he running? And then his drop grade was a 70.5. He caught everything. All right. It was good. And then he was doing good blocking on top of it in the 50s, which for a wide receiver isn't that terrible. It really isn't. So I think what they were doing with him was saying, give me a prove it game. He proved that he was willing to do the nitty gritty and do the little things. So I think what you're going to see is those targets that went Josh Reynolds' way this game, those targets that went in other places. I think Jameson Williams is going to move up the pecking order in this. I really do. I think against the Bears, and as you go down the season, you are going to see more balls going his way. He is going to start getting the same treatment that they gave Jahmyr Gibbs, where it's like, we're going to bring him slow and steady, and you're going to say for the next 2 or 3 weeks, like, come on, do more. And then it might be an injury. It might be something else. And all of a sudden, Jameson Williams is going to have a 10-target game later in the season. You're going to be like, finally. All right. So here's what I'm telling you right now. I am playing Jameson Williams in my fantasy football league every single week because I'm waiting for the breakout game. And quite frankly, I'm in 3 leagues. In the league that I have him, I am not good. So I am not good in that league. So I'm going to play him because why not? I'm going to play the potential upside. And I think as a fan, you should be playing the potential upside as you watch. Let's see the snap count. Let's see if he stays at 50% next week, or let's see if he gets closer to 60 or 70% and Josh Reynolds comes down a little bit. I'd be really intrigued to see. And even more than the snap count percentage, let's look at where he's at in comparison to Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond. He played double the snaps as Khalif Raymond. It's a good sign. All right. Thank you for watching. Like us on Twitter. Like this video. Leave a comment where you at, and we'll see you on the next one.